What I was forced to serve will haunt me forever. Behind the red carpet glamour and blockbuster deals, there's something darker going on behind closed doors. I've been part of this underbelly, seen things that I can't unsee. I used to think the worst of this industry was the drama and lies, but there's another side, a side hidden in the kitchens where the real celebrities dine on something more sacred than you could ever imagine. The price of serving them costs a part of your soul. It started with a DM, a catering job. High pay, no questions. I had worked in kitchens my whole life, but I should have known better. By the time I realized what was happening, the guests were already asking for seconds. I worked disposable kitchen jobs, food courts, 2 a.m. drive-thrus, sketchy taco trucks, line cook, prep cook, weekend sous chef. But there's one thing I learned in LA. Cooks are disposable. You can be replaced by a TikTok chef instantly. I was burned out when I got that DM. Unknown account, 11:42 p.m. I was in my studio apartment, listening to my neighbor's Ring doorbell going off. Something in my gut told me to check it. The message was simple. You've been selected for a private culinary assignment. 1 week. Full discretion. High compensation. At first I thought it was a scam, but then she mentioned details about my past jobs, places I hadn't thought about in years. Jobs only I knew about. She even mentioned a pop-up dinner I did for free during lockdown. No one knew about that except me and the guy who hosted it, but he was dead now. You've been vetted, she said. Car arrives at 10 a.m. tomorrow. Black Tesla. If you're outside, you accept. Who are you with? I asked. That doesn't matter. Then she added, we've had our eye on you. This is a chance to move beyond the life you know. Read. No location, no contact info. Just the black Tesla at 10 a.m. I barely slept. My mind spun between thinking this was insane, some Squid Game cooking competition, and remembering I had less than 40 in my Cash App. 10, 0, 1 week, 1 job. I should have said no, but instead, I said yes. The next morning I was outside at 10 a.m., heart pounding. The street was eerily quiet. Then I saw it, a black Tesla, Moon, Doe S, with tinted windows so dark they looked painted on. I climbed in. The driver wore a dark cap and AirPods. He didn't speak, just drove as the city bled away into unfamiliar hills. We drove for hours. The houses got bigger, then disappeared entirely. Just raw hillsides dotted with skeletal trees. Finally, we turned onto a winding driveway. There it was, the mansion. Cold, brutal, all concrete and black steel jutting out of the hill like it didn't belong. Heavy, oppressive silence pressed against my chest. The driver gestured to the door. I stepped out, and the car pulled away before I could close the door behind me. The front door swung open before I could knock. A woman in her mid-40s, sharp as a knife, wearing a dark gray pantsuit. Her blonde hair was pulled so tight, it looked painful. Her eyes didn't blink enough. You're expected, she said, turning on her heel. Inside was colder than outside, sterile, lifeless, bare gleaming slate and glass. No warmth, no photos, just corridors designed to make you feel small. We reached stone stairs that curved down into darkness. One rule, she said, we don't ask questions here. Then she descended, expecting me to follow. Like a fool, I did. The stairs stretched forever. At the bottom was a heavy metal door. She punched in a code, and it opened with a deep groan. Inside was a kitchen unlike anything I'd seen. Massive, cold, underground. Everything gleamed under harsh LED lights, endless steel counters, industrial ovens, walk-in freezers. Spotless, sterile, lifeless. 3 others were already there working with mechanical precision. None looked up when I entered. No greetings, just rhythmic, soulless motions. You'll be briefed by the head of kitchen operations, the woman Laura said. Follow the rules, you'll be paid. Any failure terminates the contract immediately. The door slammed shut. Then she arrived. I didn't hear her come in, she was just suddenly there, filling the room like smoke. Black chef's coat, no logo. Her face was familiar, sickeningly familiar, but not like the charming image from TV. Older, harder. It was Oprah, but not the Oprah we know. This Oprah was cold, deliberate, her eyes ice cold. Cooking here isn't like cooking anywhere else, she said quietly. Food has a purpose. It's transformation. You do exactly as you're told. You don't ask what the ingredients are. You prepare what's delivered, and you never leave the kitchen during an event. Her smile was thin, calculating, predatory. Let's get to work. Hours blurred together. We washed vegetables that smelled too earthy, sliced cuts of meat that were dense and strangely heavy. No conversation, no eye contact. Time lost all meaning without clocks or windows. Then the first delivery arrived. Late, past any sane kitchen hour. The overhead light flashed red, and all motion stopped. Two figures in charcoal coveralls and black masks carried in a massive wooden crate, old, splintered, worn. They heaved it into the kitchen without ceremony and disappeared. The door slammed shut like a gunshot. The smell hit first. Not rotten, not decayed, something thicker, denser, metallic, almost sweet. Something that stuck in your throat and made your stomach churn. The others surrounded the crate, prying it open with crowbars. I stepped closer, forced to watch. Inside were slabs of meat, packed in ice already, turning pink. But it wasn't the color that made my skin crawl, it was the texture. The grain was wrong. Some parts too smooth, others knotted and twisted. Some pieces had folds that looked like they could have been part of a hand. A human hand. Bile rose in my throat. The woman chopping vegetables made eye contact with me, her lips barely moving. Cook. It wasn't a suggestion. It was a command. I wanted to run, to scream. But my body moved without me. I grabbed a slab of that meat heavier than anything I'd lifted and laid it on the cutting board. My hand shook. The knife felt like it was vibrating. I made the first slice. The meat parted too cleanly, like it wasn't really meat at all. Thick, dark juices oozed out, not blood, but something viscous that clung to the blade. I kept slicing, pretending it wasn't what I knew it had to be. Oprah watched from across the room, measuring, watching for any sign of hesitation. The first night of service was unlike anything I'd experienced. We didn't serve guests directly. Everything was plated and carried away by silent runners in black gloves. It felt more like a ritual than a meal. Dishes were plated with absurd precision, tiny cuts of that strange meat with hand-shaved truffles. The menu changed every hour, each course darker, richer, heavier than the last. Near the end of the night, something impossible happened. A plate came back. The staff was trained to never return, never question. But this time, a single porcelain plate slid back through the service door with a half-eaten dish under a domed silver lid. Everyone froze. Laura walked over, her heels clicking like a metronome. She lifted the lid with precise motion. "Fix the presentation," she said, turning to me. I walked over slowly, hands shaking. The meat was cut with surgical precision, and nestled in the corner, tucked beneath dark plum reduction, was something small, almost unnoticeable. A fingernail, pale pink at the base, still curved, like it had belonged to someone who nervously bit their nails. Everything fell away, the noise, the lights, the smell. There it was, proof. Not paranoia, proof. Oprah was standing 10 feet away, watching. "A true master never questions the ingredients," she said softly, like she was giving me a gift. I stared at that fingernail, a sliver of humanity served up like garnish, and realized this wasn't a metaphor. This was real. I wanted to scream, to run, but I didn't. I picked up the plate, wiped the edge clean, and replated the dish. It was the 5th night when everything came into focus. Something about this last delivery felt different. The staff was on edge.